Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 2023 National Rail Heritage Awards. Our guest of honour this year is a much respected railwayman and a long-standing friend of mine, Bill Reeve, who is Director of Rail for Transport Scotland. So welcome, Bill, and can I welcome all of you, both those physically present and those who are watching us on the internet. Sadly, because of the industrial relations issues, quite a few of our guests and sponsors have been unable to make it today. I do hope they are able to watch things. Also, a change after 17 years, and very much a temporary change, I hope, is that Stephen Brindle, although he's with us today, welcome Stephen, is not feeling able to do the presentation. So I'm delighted that Tim Headley-Jones, Executive Director of the Railway Heritage Trust, has agreed to do the presentation. So without further ado, Tim, can I hand over to you and we'll get into the ceremony. Thank you.
So I'd like to echo Andy's welcome to this year's ceremony. Whether you're physically present or joining us via the internet through our live stream, we hope that you will enjoy our celebration of the most impressive work in restoring these historic structures. Each year, the competition sees a wide range of entries, and as we shall see this morning, 2023 was no exception. Although it is possible to invite only a handful of representatives from each project, it is important to note that every scheme celebrated has seen the involvement of a vast number of people: planners, funders, contractors, and so on. As we explore the shortlisted projects, let us pay tribute to all those involved in conserving the transport heritage of the British Isles. As always, we need to express our great thanks to all the sponsors. Quite literally, without their support, these awards would be impossible to organise. So now let's turn to the awards themselves. We begin with the BAM Nuttall Partnership Award. This is given for the greatest heritage improvement works made to any historic railway structure as part of a jointly funded project. There are 3 shortlisted candidates for the award this year, the first of which is for the restoration of the former Granton Gasworks station in Edinburgh, entered by the City of Edinburgh Council. Granton Gasworks railway station was constructed between 1898 and 1902 as a private station on the Caledonian Railways branch serving the gasworks. The station was used by gasworks employees using special trains to travel to and from their work, and was used for this purpose until its closure in 1942. Largely disused for some 80 years, by the time that the council took over ownership in 2018, the listed building had been reduced to a shell condition. Work commenced in 2021 on a project to restore the building as part of works to create a new civic square. Conservation focused on repairs to the historic building, including repairing and repointing brickwork and replacing missing flashings. The station clock was repaired and brought back into use. In terms of the building exterior, changes were largely restricted to non-original items. The interior of the building has been refurbished with the addition of a new core linking the entrance and 2 floors, housing stairs, a lift, toilets, a shower and changing facilities. A new floor has been formed at ground level, where there was previously a void that formerly housed the track bed. Original features such as the glazed bricks and the roof trusses have been retained. This is a splendid scheme and gives focus to an area that, apart from the single remaining gas holder, which is currently being restored, had little to remind people of this area's history as a scene of industry. Well done to all involved in this unique building as a refurbishment and for keeping its past history alive in a modern setting for future generations. The second shortlisted candidate was made by Network Rail, Wales and Western, and covers the work undertaken on part of the Grade 1 listed station at London Paddington. The entry encompasses the Barlow and Brunel historic rails, the Paxton canopy, and the new replica GWR spear-top railings. These are all adjacent to the recently restored ground floor facade of Macmillan House. The area is named after the sole surviving section of the ridge and furrow canopy that complemented and extended the original glazing of Paddington Station roof, designed by Brunel's friend, Joseph Paxton. The Paxton canopy area was originally part of the Paddington Milk Dock and dated to about 1850. The rails were attached to the walls at about the same time to offer protection from vehicles. More recently, the site has been affected by the construction of the Elizabeth line. In October 2022, work commenced on a 6-month project to restore the surviving features. The canopy has been stripped back to the ironwork and restored. Drainage has been revised so that rainwater is no longer discharged into the canopy gutters, nor into the iron columns designed as drain pipes by Paxton, but now a maintenance risk. This is future-proofing the canopy, pending decisions about the role of the area and the eventual reinstatement of the ridge and furrow framing and glazing. The historic rails had become very badly corroded and near collapse. The project has gone to extraordinary lengths to conserve them. An approach was adopted that will allow the work to be traceable, if not reversible. The railings and gate around the stairwell matched GWR spear-topped railings, and great trouble was taken to retain what is thought to be the original mid-19th century wall-mounted upper hinge bracket. This was once an underused and hidden and almost hidden area of Paddington Station. However, it is now probably the principal approach to the station, and the work undertaken on this project fully reflects the care and attention applied to the restoration of this major station. The final entry was entered by the MPower Kernow Community Interest Company and covers the restoration of the turntable at St Blazey near Parr in Cornwall. Although the shed at St Blazey dates to 1874, when it was opened by the Cornish Mineral Railway, the longer 85-foot turntable that is the subject of this entry was installed in 1952 by Cowan Sheldon. The turntable survived the end of steam, as it was also used to gain access to the Part Roundhouse until this closed in the 1980s, and then to turn locomotives used on specials. The turntable had fallen into disuse by 2018, with little maintenance being done since 2005. The main aims of the project were not only to provide an operational turntable in Cornwall, but also to provide engineering training for young people in the area. With funding from a number of agencies and following careful research in the records, work commenced in June 2021 on the restoration of the Grade 2-star turntable, with the bulk of the work being completed during the first half of 2023. The first work involved cleaning and restoring the turntable pit. The work on the turntable itself included lifting the deck out of the pit and separating the two end carriages, which were sent away for repair to a specialist firm of steelwork fabricators. These were extensively reconstructed, including welding in new sections of steel and replacement of corroded rivets with look-alike bolts. Other work included the recoating of the core deck and carriages and the reassembly of the complete structure. This is an impressive project where the detailed research has been successfully combined with the practical issues of restoring a structure in an inhospitable environment. It has brought back into use a facility that will be much used in the future. So which of this attractive trio is the winner of the BAM Nuttall Partnership Award 2023? Well, I'm pleased to announce that the award of the BAM Nuttall Partnership Award for 2023 goes to MPower Kernow Community Interest Company for bringing back into use the turntable at St Blazey, and I'd now like to invite Duncan Mitchell and Mervyn Alcock from the company to receive the award from Andy Savage on behalf of BAM Nuttall, who are unable to make it today. The GWR Craft Skills Award recognises the best use of traditional craft skills in restoring a heritage building or structure. There are 3 shortlisted projects for this award. The first of this trio was entered by Robert and Anne Christie for the restoration and reuse of Cullybackey station building near Ballymena in Northern Ireland. The listed station dated originally to July 1858, when it was opened by the Ballymena, Ballymoney, Coleraine and Portrush Junction Railway, but the building featured dates to 1865 and was designed by John Lanyon. The station was closed to passengers in 1976, but reopened in 1982. When the entrance bought the station building, it had lain derelict for many years. Due to a failing roof and collapsing chimney, there had been much water ingress and consequent destruction of floors, panelling and plasterwork on the inside. Work started in January 2020 on the restoration of the building, with the project being finally completed in December 2022. Most remarkably, the entrants have funded the entire project themselves. Externally, the roof required over 600 replacement tiles. Other work included rebuilding the chimney, replacing spalled bricks, the installation of new or refurbished guttering, and the replacement or renovation of woodwork. Such is the quality of the work that it is nearly impossible to see where slates, bricks and woodwork have been replaced. The interior required walls to be stripped and replastered with lime plaster. Damaged cornicing was either repaired or replaced, again to the original style. The walls in the former booking hall and office had tongue and groove panelling. Much of this and other woodwork has been retained and restored with replacement wood machined to the original pattern. In the case of the doors, the original fittings have been reused where possible. This is an outstanding example of what can be achieved by private individuals without any outside funding. Their love of the project shines through in all that they have done. Most impressive is the length they have gone to in order to obtain heritage materials that complement the existing structure. The second shortlisted entry was made by Colt Construction Limited for the refurbishment of the canopy on Morpeth Station, Platform 1. The Grade 2 listed North Eastern Railway Station at Morpeth dates originally to 1847, but the platform canopy that is covered by the entry was completed only in about 1880. Over the years, the condition of the canopy deteriorated, and during 2022, the entrants were contracted by Network Rail to undertake the restoration of the canopies. The work to the canopies can be divided into 2 parts. The first of these is the freestanding canopy of 5 bays that is situated at the north end of the platform. This comprises cast iron columns, beams, spandrel panels and fascia sections with Georgian wired glazing and slate roofs. The work undertaken, which included the replacement of slates, has been carried out to a high standard. The second part is to the canopy adjacent to the building. This comprises repair work, but also commendably includes the provision of new cast iron columns, faithfully matching the original design. These replaced modern steel columns. Again, this work has been completed in an exemplary way. Overall, an excellent restoration of the canopies has been delivered, and the results are very pleasing to the eye. More widely, this work enhances the recently renovated main building, resulting in an excellent and welcoming station. The third shortlisted candidate was entered by Chiltern Railways and comprises the restoration of the historic station furniture at Warwick Station. The station booking hall at the unlisted Warwick Station is a particularly rare example insofar that it still retains its historic original GWR Edwardian furniture. The assembly comprises 2 padded 12-foot benches together with a matching Edwardian table. Naturally, after 120 years and numerous instances of unsympathetic reupholstering, it was recognised that in view of their historical value, it was important to restore these pieces of historic furniture to their original appearance. The work was undertaken with funding provided by the Railway Heritage Trust between February and July 2022. The table required attention to the support structure and to the top that was distressed in parts. Examination of the underside of the table revealed that the central panel was stamped GWR using hot branding. The finishes have been carefully redressed, and where necessary, due to the need to use sustainable timber for repairs, the Victorian decorating technique of scumbling has been applied to achieve matching finishes, both on the table and the benches. Although both benches look similar, there are minor differences in detail. One of the benches has a label affixed underneath on the frame showing that it originated from the British Rail Western Region stores at Swindon in December 1962, when the bench was delivered to the station master for the Stratford-upon-Avon area. Both benches have been reupholstered using green leather cloth in an appropriate style of buttoned upholstery. Chiltern Railways must be applauded for seeing the opportunity and undertaking this restoration, and their contractors are to be congratulated for their skillful restoration. Whilst this is one of the more unusual entries to be judged, sometimes the furnishings are of as much historic and architectural interest and value as the building fabric itself. All in all, 3 varied projects, but which of the trio has won the GWR Craft Skills Award 2023? And the winner is Robert and Anne Christie for the careful work undertaken in the restoration of the station at Cullybackey. So please step forward, Robert and Anne Christie, to receive the GWR Craft Skills Award from Matt Barnes of GWR. We now move on to the Arch Company Urban Heritage Award. The award recognises the success of a train operator, station owner or other partnerships in ensuring consistently high-quality upkeep and enhancement of the environment of a significant urban station within its care, so as to perpetuate the historic ambience consistent with modern passenger requirements. There are 3 shortlisted entries in this category. The first of these was entered by ScotRail Trains for work undertaken on the concourse of the Grade A listed Aberdeen Station. Although Aberdeen Station dated originally to 1867, the present Category A listed structure dates to a comprehensive rebuilding project overseen by J.A. Parker, the chief engineer of the Great North of Scotland Railway, which was undertaken between 1913 and 1920. One of the key elements of the concourse area is the pavilion. Over the years, the structure had become almost lost amongst the clutter of the modern railway, but in July 2020, work commenced on a 2-year project to restore the structure and undertake associated improvements to the concourse area. The pavilion building was cleared out internally, while the stonework, doors and windows have been sympathetically restored to reflect original features. A first-class lounge was created using the roof of the pavilion building and using extensive glazing to give the pavilion building a presence on the concourse once again, creating a prominent focal point. As part of the project, repairs were made to the stonework and windows and doors of all the other structures on the concourse, with new glazing incorporated to reflect the work on the pavilion. The artillery shell from the First World War, which has stood in the station concourse since 1917, was restored, repainted, emptied of its contents and repositioned, with the money collected donated to the YMCA Scotland, who had been recipient for donations during the Second World War. The concourse literally puts passengers at the heart of what the railway does, since the travel shop is now at the core of the station. Aberdeen is now presented anew as a decluttered, reimagined, go-to destination, which at last makes full sense of its inheritance. The second shortlisted entry in this category came from First Trenitalia West Coast Rail Limited for the restoration of the tiling at Coventry Station. The Grade 2 listed station at Coventry was the result of a complete rebuild undertaken by the London Midland region in connection with the electrification of the West Coast Main Line and was completed only in 1962. Over the last few years, the station, designed by architect Derek Shorten, has been greatly extended in sympathetic style to cater for today's high level of usage. One notable feature of the original design is the Swedish tiling on walls and columns that, with the extensive areas of glass, helped to give the station its light and airy ambience. Over the years, some of the tiles have become damaged, detracting from the appearance of the prominent tiled areas. A scheme commenced in November 2022 to determine areas for restoration and repair, and then specifying precisely which tiles would be replaced. Specimens of the 3 different sizes required were carefully removed so that exact copies could be made, and these have been hand-produced at the Jackfield Tile Works. A specialist mosaic contractor has carried out the replacement work at the chosen parts of the station. The bespoke new tiles are a good match and have been fitted neatly with due attention to appropriate grouting. It is only at close quarters that the replacements can be detected. The areas worked on include the soaring columns immediately outside and within the lofty foyer, the areas in the vicinity of the ticket barriers, including the floating balcony above, and the half landing on the stairways that connect with a central island platform. It is refreshing to observe that the valued heritage of this exceptional modern era station is not only recognised, but is receiving the practical care it assuredly deserves. Avanti West Coast merits praise for accepting this responsibility with such evident enthusiasm. The final entry for this award has been made by Benedict O'Looney of Benedict O'Looney Architects and BAM Nuttall for the restoration of the roof and facade at Peckham Rye Station in London. Designed by Charles Henry Driver, the Grade 2 listed Peckham Rye Station was originally built in 1865 by the London, Brighton and South Coast Railway. One unusual feature of the station was a very large waiting room, accessed only from a single platform, which is thought to have been for passengers travelling to the Crystal Palace. Significant work was carried out in the 1930s and 1950s to create a new stairway to the platforms. From the 1960s onwards, parts of the station were abandoned, and subsequent lack of maintenance led to deterioration of the fabric. Over the last 15 years, a series of restoration projects have been undertaken, opening bricked-up windows, restoring the north wing, and extending the south stair. The major roof and facade project restoration began in the autumn of 2021 and was completed in May 2023. More than 50 doors and windows were refurbished. Other work saw the Suffolk white brickwork cleaned, restored and repointed with lime mortar, whilst extensive repairs to Bath stone detailing was also undertaken. The most significant areas of repair were to the roof. This area has consistently leaked, plaguing the historic interior of the waiting room. The work included replacing the life-expired slates to the 4 wing roofs with clay pantiles of the original design. In addition, the lost cast-iron roof cresting, which is a key architectural feature completing the building, was replaced. One of the great successes was securing additional funding to have the cresting posts gilded in solid gold. The transformation wrought at this important South London Junction station is impressive. With the planned demolition of the 1930s building located between the station and Rye Lane, a view of the station, unseen for almost a century, will be revealed. All involved in this project have produced a building worthy of this renewed exposure. 3 excellent and very varied entries, but which of them has been most successful in the eyes of the adjudicators? Well, I'm pleased to announce that the Arch Company Urban Heritage Award for 2023 goes to Benedict O'Looney and BAM Nuttall for the superb work on the facade and roof at Peckham Rye, and I'd now like to invite Benny O'Looney and Andrew Wood and to receive their award from Phil Curry on behalf of the Arch Company. Next we come to the Structures Restoration Award, sponsored by Translink. The award is given for the successful restoration, modification or adaptation for new use of any historic railway or tramway civil engineering structure in any ownership. There are 4 shortlisted entries for this award. The first of the shortlisted entries was made by National Highways for the restoration of the Westfield viaduct near Bathgate in central Scotland. The Category B listed viaduct was originally constructed for the Monkland Railway and was completed in 1855. Becoming part of the North British Railway in 1865, the line over the viaduct was finally closed to all traffic in 1964. Work started in July 2021 on an 18-month project to restore the 16-arch structure. There were 2 primary aims. The first was to protect the masonry from water ingress through the installation of a waterproofing system. The concrete haunches inside both parapet walls were repaired, and the vegetation growing in the former track bed and the upper levels of the contaminated ballast were removed to allow a waterproofing membrane to be installed. This was attached to the repaired face of the haunches before being covered in new ballast. The second aim was the restoration of the viaduct's fabric. One of the main challenges for this project was to match the replacement stonework to the original. Samples were taken, and it was decided that a Northumberland quarried stone was the best match. Many of the arches have 3 steel patras plates installed. These were installed some years ago and had deteriorated over time. 7 replacement plates were cast based on a template of an original plate, and all the remaining plates were tested and repainted. From being a tired and forlorn structure from a bygone age, overrun with vegetation and showing signs of advancing decay, Westfield Viaduct has been rescued, repaired and restored to a high standard. This impressive restoration not only secures the future of a much admired local landmark, but in a largely unchanged rural setting, but also unlocks the possibility of Westfield Viaduct becoming the key asset in creating a traffic-free route for future active travel. The second of the shortlisted entries was made by Network Rail, Story Contracting and Ropetech Access Solutions Limited for the work undertaken on the Grade 1 listed Royal Border Bridge at Berwick-upon-Tweed. The 28-arch viaduct was officially opened by Queen Victoria and Prince Albert in 1850. Modified in 1989 by the careful introduction of specially designed electrification gantries, the viaduct underwent significant maintenance in 1993. In January 2022, work commenced on an 18-month programme to eliminate a number of structural issues that had been identified. One of the innovative facets of the programme was the use of abseiling engineers to undertake much of the work on the structure. This had the benefit of avoiding the necessity of erecting what would have been vast quantities of scaffolding, thus saving both time and cost. The work included attention to loose brickwork, open joints, parapet bulging, and fractured patras plates. Almost 500 metres of new horizontal and vertical tie bars were installed, whilst all the existing patras plates and steel pier straps were cleaned and treated with a new protective coating. Where required, stone and brickwork was replaced on a like-for-like basis following consultation with the local conservation officers. It is a good scheme when, on completion, the work undertaken on a masonry structure is not always obvious. Here, the repairs blend in with the viaduct very well. The new tie bars are inconspicuous and have been neatly placed to fit within the arched features in the stonework. Overall, this is a very well executed project undertaken in a difficult location. The third shortlisted entry was made by National Highways for restoration of the footbridge alongside the Teviot Viaduct near Roxburgh. The Category B listed viaduct was situated on the North British Railway route from St Boswell's to Sprowston Junction, which opened in 1850. The line was closed in 1964, although the viaduct and its associated trussed footbridge survived. Over the years, the condition of the footbridge deteriorated, and in October 2020, work commenced on a project completed in July 2022 for the structure's restoration. This saw the three-span footbridge dismantled and moved to a specialist company's workshops in Barnsley for assessment and repair. Inevitably, not all the original wrought iron structural elements were repairable. Templates were made for the new components so that the restored structure accurately replicated the original. A new non-slip decking was installed, which replaced the original decayed wooden deck. New wire tension cables were attached to the parapets, replacing the out-of-character timber boarding and the decorative small lead roses from the original structure, which were replaced with identical steel roses milled to match the original design. Stonework repairs were carried out on the main viaduct prior to the footbridge returning to site. The bridge was reassembled in the workshop into its three separable spans, then treated before a final coat of light green paint was applied, as agreed by the Council's Conservation Officer. Given the location of the footbridge, this is a very impressive project with difficult site access in an exposed location. Removing the footbridge to a factory location has ensured that the repairs carried out were in a controlled environment, and the skills of the specialist contractor are especially evident throughout the structure. Well done to all involved in this project. It was a pleasure to see such a unique and unusual footbridge restored to its former glory in such beautiful surroundings. The final shortlisted entry in this category was made by Story Contracting and Network Rail for the Forth River Viaduct at Stirling This bridge, which was constructed for the Caledonian Railway in 1905, was the replacement for an earlier structure. In January 2022, work commenced on the viaduct's refurbishment as part of an ongoing £4 billion project to protect and improve railway viaducts and bridges in Scotland. Work on this structure was completed in October 2022. The structure is a mixture of sandstone piers and 4 wrought iron girders with lattice supports and handrails. Initial work saw engineers erect scaffolding covering each 20-metre span of the bridge. This allowed critical steelwork repairs to take place, including the replacement and removal of 300 steel rivets. Other work included grit blasting to remove old paint and rust before metalwork repainting. The project also included the very difficult job of replacing all the bearings at the north end. All stonework repairs were completed in accordance with Network Rail standards. In addition, a permanent walkway was unobtrusively installed through the structure to provide regular access to undertake general maintenance to the viaduct when required. Over the years, the competition has seen a number of excellent bridge and viaduct projects from Scotland. In the quality of the work completed, these projects collectively set an example for similar projects elsewhere. The work on the 4th viaduct at Stirling continues this superb tradition. So 4 very different schemes here for our adjudicators to decide upon, but, well, with 4 outstanding entries to look at, the adjudicators actually came to the conclusion that it was impossible to identify one overall winner. As a result, it was decided to award 2 plaques this year. The first winner of the Translink Structures Award 2023 is National Highways for the excellent restoration of Westfield Viaduct at Bathgate. So would Helen Roster and Colin McNichol please join us on the stage to receive the award from Gavin McFarlane and Brendan Sloan of Translink. And the second winner is the team from Network Rail and Story Contracting for the exemplary work undertaken at Stirling. And so I'd now like to invite Stephen McVeigh and Alison Flanagan up to receive their award from Gavin McFarlane and Brandon Sloan. The London Underground Operational Enhancement Award is given for the scheme that demonstrates the greatest improvement in user accessibility while still sustaining the location's heritage features. There are 3 shortlisted entries in this category. The first of these covers the work undertaken at Sydney Gardens at Bath for the installation of balustrade wall and safety railings that was entered by Network Rail Infrastructure Limited. The railway through Sydney Gardens dates to the building of the Great Western Railway by Brunel. The Grade 2-star listed wall is set within the gardens, which themselves are listed, setting a real challenge over how to design and install new railings which were of sympathetic appearance in order to improve safety at this sensitive location. The Grade 2-star listed wall is set within the listed gardens themselves, and the design and erection of the safety railings are excellent. Viewed from a short distance away inside the park, the railings are unobtrusive and sympathetic, although they are obviously highly visible close up. Erection of the railings has been well done, with the impact of embedding the supports on the original structure minimised as far as possible. The repairs to the wall were undertaken by a specialist subcontractor, Roland Stone, and are of good quality. Conditions attached to the consent required the approval of all materials, including mortar, to ensure they matched the original, and this has been satisfied. This scheme, which involved a tremendous amount of work to get consent, stretching over many years, satisfies its objectives, is visually attractive, and is one of those involved in bringing it to fruition can justifiably be proud of. It succeeds in bringing improved safety within a very sensitive area. The second shortlisted entry for the award was made by Transport for London and covers the work undertaken at Cockfosters as part of the Step-Free Access programme. The Grade 2 listed station on the Piccadilly line was designed by Charles Holden and opened in 1933. In 2018, work commenced on a 2-year project to install a lift shaft in order to provide step-free access from the street to the platforms. Construction within an existing structure presents many problems, but Cockfosters was fortunate in that it had a car park with a separate set of steps, and thus it was possible to construct the lift shaft nearby without too many alterations to the original structure. At street level, the shaft is brick, built with brickwork that matches the main station. At station concourse level, the shaft is tile-lined, which enables it to become easily visible, but without detracting from the general style of this period building. This is a well-planned scheme that does not jar with the original structure or appear too dominant. It maintains Holden's station style, but provides an extremely useful passenger facility. The final shortlisted entry for the award was entered by Rother Valley Railway and covers the work undertaken in transferring the turntable from Hither Green in London and installing it at Robertsbridge in Sussex. Originally manufactured by Ransomes and Rapier of Ipswich in 1926 for use at Cannon Street, the turntable was subsequently installed for the opening in 1933 of the new Southern Railway locomotive shed at Hither Green in South London. No longer required operationally, the turntable was donated by Network Rail to the entrant, and in January 2020, work started on a project to see the structure carefully removed and then transferred to the Rother Valley Railway. Work on its installation at Robertsbridge commenced in early 2022. The entrant's intention was to retain as much of the original structure as possible, replacing only those components that were irreparable. These included the corroded perimeter rail track, the rotten timber walkways, and the deformed walkway railing. The replacement material replicates well the original. The original rail track has been reused along with chairs and other platework. Turning of the turntable is done manually by the loco crew by initially swinging out the operating levers at each end that unlock peg bolts that fit into cast iron fixtures. A curiosity of the turntable is that in its original manufacture, the central pivot is slightly offset from centre, making locking in the obverse direction awkward, and this is a feature that has been retained. The whole project has the hallmark of a project done with considerable thought and planning, with a careful attention to detail. Workmanship by the entrant and their contractors is to a very high standard, which gives the impression of as-new appearance from this functional engineering piece. 3 very varied projects, but the London Underground Operational Enhancement Award 2023 is made to Network Rail Infrastructure Limited for the meticulous work undertaken in designing and installing the railings at Sydney Gardens at Bath. And so would Danielle March and Colin Field please come up to receive your award from Gareth Leslie from London Underground. Congratulations. The Network Rail Conservation Award is for the best restored, listed or historic structure, which has also received funding from the Railway Heritage Trust. And we begin with the first of the three very different entries shortlisted for this award. The first covers the restoration of the water tank at Didcot, which was entered by the Great Western Society. The Grade 2 listed combined coaling stage and water tower was constructed in the 1930s as one of the government-funded projects aimed to alleviate unemployment. With the gradual elimination of steam traction, it ceased to be used in 1965, but passed with the shed to the Great Western Society. It is now the only surviving example of its type that is still in use for its original purpose of coaling and watering steam engines. Over the years, there has been the inevitable deterioration to the steelwork of the water tank, and in November 2021, work started on a 9-month project to restore the tank. The work includes the replacement of the original asbestos cement roof with one that is thankfully asbestos-free. The tank was cleared out and has been lined and strengthened. The steel tank panels were corroded in places. The existing steelwork was jet blasted and inspected. Weak areas were repaired by welding and new sections welded as necessary. Where corroded riveted panels were replaced, care was taken to ensure that any visible bolt heads were spaced and rounded to match the adjacent rivets. The access ladder was repaired, as was the brickwork in the area immediately below the tank. The original lead paint has been removed and the tank repainted. The restoration of the water tank is a particularly impressive piece of work. The finished tank looks to be natural and an integral part of an operational environment, and much as it would have looked during the post-Second World War steam era. The second shortlisted candidate was entered by Network Rail for the restoration of the train shed at Holyhead. One of two similar train sheds at the former London and North Western station, the Grade 2 listed structure dated originally to the late 1870s. The station was designed to facilitate the easy transfer of passengers to and from the ferries across the Irish Sea. Following modification to the harbour layout in the 1970s to accommodate roll-on, roll-off ferries, the west side shed was demolished in 1979. The surviving east side shed had, over the years, suffered significantly from corrosion, an inevitable consequence of its proximity to the sea. Work started in March 2021 on a 15-month programme to restore the structure. A previous restoration had replaced the entire end-glazed gable that was not true to the original design. It was possible to identify that the roof end gable at Preston Station was identical to the original gable at Holyhead train shed. The entire gable was replaced using modern materials to match the original design. The 300-metre long brick elevation was missing many of the original stone cornices. These were replaced to match the original materials and form. The ironwork was stripped back to ascertain the extent of the corrosion damage. Any ironwork that was too corroded for repair was replaced on a like-for-like basis. A complete suite of added sympathetic strengthening bars were introduced along the entire length of the train shed, something that was essential to meet modern wind loading requirements. The train shed at Holyhead stands in a highly exposed location and is always likely to suffer from the vagaries of sea air and the climate. This project has taken this into account to produce an excellent job of reinstating the structure to as near an original condition as possible and ensuring its long-term survival. The last candidate was the entry made by the Centenary Lounge Limited for the restoration work undertaken to the refreshment room on Platform 2 at Leamington Spa Station. The station, which is now Grade 2 listed, was rebuilt by the Great Western Railway. The room has always been used as a refreshment room since the new station opened in 1939. Over the last few decades, even though the room was being used as a cafe, it had not been well maintained, with the condition of the space and its fittings deteriorating. In the summer of 2022, the entrance commenced a 2-month project to restore the refreshment room to its earlier splendour. The repair and restoration work to the fabric of the interior, especially the marquetry, have been carried out to a very high standard, and care has been taken to clean and repair the original floor. Of particular note is the care taken to recreate the limestone wall facing above the hardwood panelling and the fitting of obscure glass lampshades that capture the spirit and scale of the original fittings. The restoration of the external teak window frames and the replacement mirror and the reproduction of GWR wall map helped to enhance the Art Deco ambience. The external signage, refreshments, was also recreated as a replica of the original. The refreshment rooms at Leamington Spa Station are rare survivors from the 1938 reconstruction of the station by the Great Western Railway, fully restored to the period style. This is an excellent entry and a fine example of the care which ought to be given for the refurbishment of historic spaces. Altogether, 3 very different examples of conservation projects. And I'm pleased to announce that the Network Rail Conservation Award 2023 goes to the Centenary Lounge Limited for the excellent work undertaken to restore the refreshment room at Leamington Spa. And I'd now like to invite Arsia Beg to the stage to receive the award from Tom Higginson of Network Rail. I did ask for a special award to be made for the quality of the cake at the Centenary Lounge, but they didn't allow it, so perhaps next year. So now we come to the Volunteers Award, sponsored by the Hendy and Pendle Trust. This award reflects the fact that many of the projects that we see, particularly on heritage railways, have relied on volunteers both to raise the funding and also to undertake the actual physical work. It is for this reason that this award is the only one today that comes with a financial contribution to support the winning entry. There are 3 shortlisted entries for this special recognition of volunteer contributions. We start off with the rebuilt crossing gates at Crake Hall that were entered by the Wensleydale Railway plc. The crossing sits on a minor road a little distance from Crake Hall on the former North Eastern Railway line from Northallerton to Hawes. There was a station here that was open to goods in 1855 and passengers in 1866. The station was closed in 1955 when passenger services ceased, although the line remained open for freight. In recent years, the gated crossing had been controlled manually using 4 metal farm-style gates. These, although functional, had often proved difficult to control in windy conditions, making operation at times less straightforward for railway staff. In addition, the gates did not present a particularly pleasing visual aspect as part of a heritage railway. Work commenced in May 2022 on a 9-month project to replace the gates. Research was carried out, and with the aid of evidence from North Eastern Railway sources and Siemens, a pattern based on the North Eastern Railway's Southern Division design of gates was commissioned. The overall look of the completed gates is excellent. The quality of workmanship, both in terms of the construction and fitting of the gates in position, is extremely well done. Metalwork, woodwork, and the finishes are well detailed, with the workmanship to a very high standard. Overall, these gates are now fit for purpose and make use simpler and safer for staff, improving the safe operation of the railway. In addition, although wayside features, they give an air of professionalism and correctness to the rural railway scene here at Crake Hall. The second of the shortlisted entries in this category is Hollingbourne Station Community Cafe and Hub, and was entered by the Kent Community Rail Partnership and South Eastern Railway. Hollingbourne Station was opened in 1884 when the Maidstone to Ashford line of the London, Chatham and Dover Railway opened. The unlisted station was built in an attractive polychrome style, with main panels of white brick with red horizontal bands, corbels and arched window heads. The west end of the building has 2 stories and was the station master's house. This has long been in commercial use, but the single-storey station part had been disused and became totally derelict internally since the station was destaffed 32 years ago. Kent Community Rail Partnership has led the project to reuse the station as a community cafe and hub. Work commenced on the project in February 2022 and was completed about 12 months later. This work included removal of rotten flooring, new ceilings, replastered walls, new painted timber wainscoting, completely renovated windows, and new electrics, lighting and heating. For security reasons, particularly due to the remoteness of the station, lockable timber shutters were also provided on the exterior of the windows. This project is a great advert for the work by the partnership in bringing together a community need with restoration of a derelict station building to provide the space needed. It is early days with regards to regular use and the establishment of cafe and retail facilities, but the signs are very promising so far and a great example to all train operating companies. The third entry was made by Tidy Randalstown for the creation of Elevation, the Randalstown Viaduct Community Garden. The Grade B Plus viaduct was designed by Charles Lanyon for the section of the Belfast and Ballymena Railway that ran west from Cookstown Junction towards Magherafelt and into counties Tyrone and Derry. Following the closure of the line in 1959, ownership of the viaduct reverted to Lord O'Neill and the Shanes Castle estate. Unused for many years, the viaduct's long-term future was secured in 2000 when it was acquired by the local council, although it was still subject to vandalism. Tidy Randalstown, which was established in 2012, has been involved in a number of projects over the past decade to improve the condition of the structure and enhance it for the local community. Recognising that the viaduct represented an asset that still was not being fully exploited, the entrance obtained funding in January 2022 from the Royal Horticultural Society for the conversion of the grass areas on the viaduct into a community garden. The work included the removal of concrete plinths installed in the 1990s for lighting and proposals for a new lighting scheme. The garden was installed in the spring of 2022. Hearty congratulations to the community group on a first-class environmental and sustainable landscaping project, which significantly enhances the facilities for the local community. So 3 very differing and impressive schemes, but which of this trio has caught the eye of the awards panel? Well, the winner of the Hendy and Pendle Trust Volunteers Award 2023 is made to the Wensleydale Railway for the reconstructed level crossing gates at Crake Hall. So would Robert Coombs join us on the stage to receive the award from Andy Savage, representing Lord and Lady Hendy, who sadly cannot be with us today. Congratulations. Now, we're particularly pleased to welcome Avanti West Coast as a new sponsor for the National Railway Heritage Awards. And so we're now moving on to the Avanti West Coast Community Award. It's the first year they've sponsored an award, and we really thank them for their support. This award is designed to recognise the restoration, refurbishment or improvement to a station or building either by a community group or for a community use that connects communities and promotes social inclusion. And there are 3 shortlisted entries. The first of these was made by Go Via Thameslink Railway for the creation of the community hub at the Grade 2 Bishopstone Station in Sussex. The striking Art Deco style of the main station building was built in 1936 as a centrepiece of a proposed new housing development along the railway line to Seaford that never took place as a result of the Second World War. The design is attributed to James Robb Scott, the Southern Railway's architect, and is believed to have been inspired by the work done by Charles Holden for London Transport in the 1930s. The Seaford branch line was singled in 1975 and the station became unstaffed in 1988. At that point, the station building became redundant. Later, the former ticket and parcels office were let commercially for a period, but then became vacant. Thereafter, the condition of the station building inevitably deteriorated to a point where intervention and a new use were required. So work started in 2021 on a project to convert the building for use as a community hub. The external work included the replacement of the windows with new Crittall-style metal-framed windows that matched those installed originally. External signage, including the prominent Southern Railway, has also been carefully recreated. The internal restoration included the removal of some walls around the ticket and parcel offices to create a single open-plan room with kitchen facilities. The former ticket office area retains its ticket windows as a feature. The work has been done to an excellent standard, with doors and other principal features remanufactured where necessary to match the original design or copies of what remained. The outcome of this project is that the station building has had significant work done to bring it back into repair and is now back in regular and very meaningful community use, and this is how the station is cared for. All involved in this project can be justifiably pleased with the results of their work. The second entry was made by the Eynsford Station Darrenth Valley Community Rail Partnership for the restoration of the waiting room and platform shelter at Eynsford Station in Kent. The unlisted but distinctive station at Eynsford was built for the London, Chatham and Dover Railway and opened in 1862. Although the station remains operational, the waiting room had been out of use for a number of decades. With the support of Go Via Thameslink Railway and the Railway Heritage Trust, the entrance undertook the restoration of the waiting room in late 2022. The work on the waiting room within the downside building has been nicely carried out and looks authentic, being painted in British Rail's Southern Region green and cream colours. The work has seen excess cable trunking and ducting rationalised or disguised. The main window has been restored and new wood panelling complete, with a dado rail installed to replicate the original. The fireplace has been replaced and wood flooring has been added. The shelter on the upside is a beautiful restoration of the original shelter with suitable dagger boards and again painted in British Rail's Southern Region colours. The finish on this is particularly good, and it really gives the air of a 1950s British Railways station. It has interesting art posters displayed on the back wall, all with a local theme. The work undertaken at Eynsford is consistently to a high standard. One of the most interesting aspects of this restoration is how the wider community was involved in this project, and it seems the wider Darrenth Valley and railway industry have pooled their effort to recreate a suitable heritage ambience within an operational station. The third entry for this award was made by Devon and Cornwall Rail Partnership for the work undertaken on the main building at Oakhampton Station. The unlisted Southern Railway Station was completely rebuilt in the early 1930s. Oakhampton Station closed to passengers in 1972 when it was boarded up and abandoned. An earlier restoration was completed in 1997. However, when the decision was made to reopen Oakhampton to full passenger services, there was a need to restore the station to make it fit for operational duties. An early decision was reached to include the heritage side of the railway buildings alongside the need to modernise the railway infrastructure. Great Western Railway and Network Rail funded and undertook the work in making the station fabric secure. This included a full rewiring and redecoration, as well as work to the canopy and the roof. Following careful research, the station's signage was restored to its condition as it would have been in 1959. There was no modern use for the original booking office and hall, and so these were restored to their condition of about 1960 as a display feature. The booking office itself, while retaining its original ticket windows, was empty inside, so a new counter, set of drawers and bookshelf was provided. Ticket racks for ordinary and season tickets, a good reproduction Southern Railway style clock, and all manner of small related items, as would have been found in a booking office at the time, were also sourced. The reopening of the line to regular passenger services was the catalyst that has led to an excellent project in restoring a station that might so easily have been lost. It really is a remarkable survivor that has been resurrected from oblivion. 3 very interesting projects, but who has won? And which of these has won the Avanti West Coast Community Award? I'm pleased to be able to announce that the winner for 2023 of the Community Award is Devon and Cornwall Rail Partnership for the work completed at Oakhampton Station. So would Christopher Irwin, Matt Barnes, Sue and Tom Baxter and Richard Birmingham from the partnership please make their way to the stage to receive their plaque from Andy Mellors of Avanti West Coast. I think it's really noticeable that 2 of those entries were for unlisted stations, and I think it really sort of highlights the fact that so many unlisted structures have fantastic heritage features that we ignore at our peril. So really great that those were recognised in that award. We now turn to the National Highways Award, and this covers the restoration, refurbishment, or other means of bringing a building or structure that is no longer in railway ownership back into a sustainable use. And there are 3 shortlisted entries for this category. The first of these is for Places for People Developments Limited for work undertaken on the Engine Yard, Edinburgh. The Grade B listed tram depot and workshops at Shrub Hill in Edinburgh dated originally to a small horse tram depot erected in 1871. Over the years, the site expanded to accommodate cable and then electric trams. It was Edinburgh Corporation's main depot and workshops until the system closed in 1956. Following the demise of the tramway system, the depot was used to house buses, with a small transport museum also being based there. In 1962, much of the site was demolished, leaving the former cable house and 2 other buildings. These were largely unused from 1999, when Lothian Regional Transport transferred its operations to a more modern facility, and their condition deteriorated significantly. In June 2021, the entrance commenced a 2-year project to restore the surviving structures and to convert the space within them into 43 residential properties. The external work included the repair to the existing stone and brick elevations, with any replacement material being carefully matched to the original. The new roofline reflects that of the original. All of the openings have been retained and brought back to life with replacement stone mullions and transoms, incorporating new timber windows to key elevations. The properties have been carefully integrated into the buildings and a new linking structure sympathetically inserted. Surviving features from the building's history, such as the smaller shed's central gantry with the tracks for the cranes in place on the gantry and on the adjacent walls, have been carefully retained and carefully restored. The project has rescued and repurposed a derelict group of buildings which had been on the Buildings at Risk register for some 10 years and has cleverly incorporated their industrial origins into the provision of 43 smart modern residential properties. The work is all to a high standard, and the result is particularly sympathetic to the listed host structure. The second entry was made by the National Trust and covers the reimagining of the disused Castlefield viaduct in Manchester. The Grade 2 listed viaduct was constructed by Heenan and Froud to improve access to Manchester Central Station and was completed in 1892. Following closure of the station in 1969, the tracks were lifted and the 8-span viaduct fell into disuse. Left derelict, the only work undertaken thereafter was the period removal of vegetation to prevent structural damage. Over the years, there has been much discussion as to the structure's future. The National Trust came up with the interesting concept of a garden in the sky in early 2021, with work on the project being undertaken during the first half of 2022. Initially, the garden was planned to have a 12-month life, but this was subsequently extended to 2 years. Before work commenced, the condition of the existing structure was surveyed. This indicated that the viaduct was in good condition, with no remedial work required to accommodate the planned garden. The project only covered half of the 330-metre long viaduct. At the halfway point, a multi-purpose pavilion was constructed. This offers visitors a tantalising glimpse of how the structure looked before the project was completed. The success of the project can be seen in the number of visitors that have seen the garden and by the length of time they stay and engage with it. This new approach to conservation and reuse is novel for the National Trust and is to be greatly applauded. The Trust's aim is to get involvement from local community groups, schools, and people who live nearby who might not normally visit National Trust properties. It is to be hoped that this initial trial period, already extended to 2 years, might be further prolonged and lead to work to extend to other parts of the viaduct. The final one of these 3 entries was entered by Paul Cohen and Cecilia Chavez Brandon and covers work undertaken on the station at Rowden Mill in Gloucestershire. The unlisted former station was opened by the Worcester, Bromyard and Lempster Railway, later part of the Great Western, in 1897. The attractive station building was designed by William Clark. The line from Bromyard to Lempster closed in 1952, and by 1960, all the track had been lifted. The disused track bed and structures was gradually sold off, and the condition of the Rowden Mill deteriorated until 1984, when the station was purchased by the Wilkinson family and carefully restored at the time. Indeed, the work was so good that it was an award winner in 1988 in the early years of this competition. About a decade ago, the entrants purchased the site from the Wilkinson family, and in 2017 began their own programme of works, both to upgrade the existing restored station and also to increase the available accommodation by the careful introduction of items of rolling stock. Although the key heritage restoration work on the station buildings had been undertaken by the Wilkinsons in the 1980s, they were now in need of refurbishment. This included upgrading the heating and electric systems and adapting interiors for holiday accommodation. The ground frame hut, restored in the Wilkinson area, has been refurbished and levers kept in working order. In many ways, the biggest challenge for this project lay in the conversion of the rolling stock. The entrants carefully researched the conversion of the inspection saloon and sought advice from the carriage department at the Severn Valley Railway, who also helpfully supplied some of the fittings. The grounded shock van body adds to the overall effect at the southern end of the station site and has been repurposed to provide housekeeping support facilities. So it's a Hoover cupboard, I think that probably means. Rowden Mill Station seems to be a hit with guests and has plenty of glowing online reviews and strong bookings. This project provides a great opportunity to introduce guests in the importance of our railway heritage, and it will ensure the continued success of the next chapter in the station's story. So 3 very diverse projects, I think you'll agree, and they certainly caused a lot of debate amongst the adjudicators, but which of the trio was the eventual choice? Well, I'd now like to invite Paul Cohen and Cecilia Chavez Brandon to come up to the stage to receive the plaque from Helene Rossiter and National Highways for the superb work at Rowden Mill Station. So we now come to the Southeastern Commercial Restoration Award, and there are 3 shortlisted entries in this category. The first of these is to Jackie Hamilton for the restoration of waiting room buildings at Wellbeing and Counselling Facility at Ladybank Station in Scotland. Originally opened in 1847 by the North British Railway, the station at Ladybank in Fife is partially listed Grade A and partially Grade B. The building that forms the entry is part of the Grade B listed structure situated on the east side of the station. Although part of this block was the upside waiting room, much of the building was unoccupied and its condition was deteriorating. The entrant saw that the space was vacant and available from a ScotRail advert, and so began her project. Physical work of the building commenced in February 2022. The work included the repair of the timber wall panelling following the completion of rot repairs with new boards profiled to match the original when necessary. The timber ceiling was restored, as were the sash and case windows. In a nice touch, the original timber panelled cupboards were refurbished for client storage in the office, and as a high-level wall unit in the tea preparation area, with original railway labelling retained, one of which says "cattle killed on line." Original waiting room benches were also restored to provide new client seating. Over the years, there have been a number of excellent projects that have featured elements of the station at Ladybank. This is a very impressive addition to the canon of work completed at this location. Our second shortlisted entry was made by the Centenary Lounge for the work undertaken on the refreshment rooms on Platform 2 at Leamington Spa. Now, we've already encountered this project today, but let's just remind ourselves about it. During the 1930s, the Great Western rebuilt a number of its major stations, and that included Leamington Spa, which was rebuilt in Art Deco style. The refreshment rooms, as we heard, have always existed on the island platforms, but had a lack of maintenance in recent years. With the entrance having assumed occupation of the room, restoration was completed during the autumn of 2022. The work was extensive and carefully executed. The chimney, panelling and the counter fronts have been magnificently restored, as has the tiled floor, which has retained much original material with repairs skillfully incorporated. The counter fittings are in the main original and retained, adding a splendid ambience to the public area. Opening up the original window to the station frontage has been successful in bringing natural light into the public space. The addition of maps and other fittings has been carefully thought through, with fixings that do not directly impact on the panelling. The project has been carried out with an eye to both historic context and the inherited artefacts, as well as a current commercial vision, and this clearly demonstrates how heritage can have a value and provide a sustainable solution to current demands. All the work shows enthusiasm and close attention to detail. The third entry in this category was entered by the Arch Company and Benedict O'Looney Architects and covers the restoration of the London Bridge Island at London Bridge Station. Findlater's Corner and the London Bridge Island are a part of a 280-metre-long railway bridge built in 1863 by the South Eastern Railway under their chief engineer, Sir John Hawkshaw. The bridge was part of the railway's plans to extend the line west of London Bridge to Cannon Street and Charing Cross. The group of 4 arches at the London Bridge Island had been derelict for a decade. When last in use, the principal arch facing London Bridge was a wine merchant. The former Express Dairy Tea Room was last used as a betting office, and the 2 eastern arches were an Italian restaurant. In January 2022, work commenced on a programme by Archco to restore the historic features of this important location. The most prominent part is the corner facing London Bridge, to the extent that it took the name of the company once occupying the arch, the Scottish wine merchant Findlaters. Its Beaux-Arts facade is clad in Dalton's Carrara ware. The name had disappeared, so it has been recreated in bronze anodized letters, and even the bronze antlers of the stag's head above the clock have been restored. The flanking stucco walls have been repaired, timber poster panels reinstated, and a polychrome colour scheme applied to the surfaces. The clock was also fully refurbished. The western wall curves round to the former Express Dairies arch, and the discovery of its mosaic advert for afternoon teas, luncheons and so on was the project's major find. This dated to the start of the 20th century and was probably covered over when the tea rooms closed. The thin coat of render obscuring it has been removed, and it is hoped that the full restoration of the Jesse Rust patent glass mosaic may be funded. The creativity brought to bear on such a superficially unpromising site, the attention to detail and the quality of the work undertaken makes this a fascinating project and one that reflects great credit on all those involved. 3 very impressive and varied entries, but which of the trio whetted our adjudicators' appetite the most? Well, the winner of the South Eastern Commercial Restoration Award for 2023 are the Arch Company and Benedict O'Looney Architects for the restoration work at London Bridge, Findlators Corner, and I'd like to invite Benedict O'Looney and Robert Batley up to the stage to receive their award from Steve White of South Eastern. So that concludes our main awards. But as you have seen from the foregoing, each year the competition attracts a wide range of entries. And it attracts a wide range of debate amongst the judges and adjudicators, and really the question of what is railway heritage. And these can vary from the very small scale projects, but still important structures. They might be unlisted, to some of the greatest feats of civil engineering in the country. Sadly, some of the entries that we receive are not always suitable for judging. Over the years, these have included things such as topiary. All are handled with sensitivity and explanations given as to why they can't be entries. Occasionally, and this year was a case in point, there was an entry that did not meet the competition's primary criteria, in that it was not a restoration of a historic railway structure, but it was a project that it was felt by the committee to deserve recognition in that the work had resulted in the long-term survival of one of the country's preserved railways. Now, the Leighton Buzzard Railway in Bedfordshire has an unbroken history that stretches back to 1919. The line has never closed, but that might have changed as a result of planned housing developments that threatened the line's future, initially proposing to build over the line and cut its main depot and countryside terminus off from the main line running out from Leighton Buzzard. Fortunately, through considerable effort and careful negotiation, and the active support of the railway's landlords, the Arnold White Group, a deal was reached with the developer that saw the construction of a deviation line plus Chamberlain's Bridge. The project progressed in such a way that the railway was able to continue to operate without interruption during the construction of the diverted line. In addition, and perhaps its biggest heritage benefit, is the agreement between the developers and the railway, which gives the railway a 250-year lease on all its infrastructure, thus guaranteeing the continuation of the line in the long term. The railway and its officers are to be congratulated for this excellent outcome, which is a considerable heritage benefit in its own right. So I'd now like to invite Tony Tompkins and Alison Chan to join us on the platform to receive the Railway's special commendation from Andy Savage, Chairman of the Awards. So we now come to our final award this morning, and the only one keeping you from a drink and your lunch. But it's a very special award. It's the Greater Anglia sponsored award, and it's given to what the awards committee judges consider to be the best entry in any category of all the entries received. The selection of the best entry each year is difficult, as there's always a number of excellent and varied schemes to have to choose between. But I'm pleased to announce that this year's overall winner goes to the Folkestone Harbour Company Limited for the transformational work undertaken at Folkestone Harbour Station. Now, before asking the entrants up to receive their award, let's examine the project first of all. The history of the railway involvement at Folkestone and the evolution of the harbour and associated branch line with the harbour station is complex. Suffice to note here that the South Eastern Railway developed the facility from 1843 and during the latter half of the 19th century. Facilities were then improved to cater both for the increased size of the vessels employed and the growth in the number of passengers carried. After the Second World War was over, Folkestone was the first English port to be reopened to civilian traffic for cross-channel shipping, and the harbour underwent further upgrades over the years. However, the opening of the Channel Tunnel and increased competition from Dover led to cross-channel services from Folkestone being withdrawn in 2000, and the harbour branch and station were mothballed from 2009 and officially closed 5 years later. Since 2015, works have been underway to conserve, restore, redevelop and repurpose former harbour and railway infrastructure as a key enabler for a major regeneration and redevelopment project on the site. All significant surviving historic elements have been included within the scheme, making it a significant undertaking. The work on the railway infrastructure included repairs to the 13-arch brick-built viaduct and the swing bridge that was installed as a replacement by the Southern Railway in 1930. In addition to all this, the project has also required the careful repair of the inner harbour perimeter walls along with the Horn Pier of 1844 and the new pier that was completed in 1905. The latter also included the upper promenade and a lighthouse. All in all, the project encompassed a linear length of some 800 metres. The final cost of the project, since work started almost a decade ago, is more than £8 million. The quality of the workmanship and the careful attention to detail are demonstrated throughout. The result of this project is that a new destination has been created from decay and dereliction by celebrating, renewing and enhancing the infrastructure that has underpinned 180 years of railway and marine engineering and operations. If the measure of success is how many people now visit the site to enjoy the ambience, amenities and artistry of this quite unique location in this corner of Kent, then it has been a very successful transformation indeed. So to receive the Greater Anglia Award for the best entry in 2023 for Folkestone Harbour, I would like to ask Paolo Kingston Carrera and Ben Boyce to join us on the platform to receive this plaque from Richard Turner of Greater Anglia. Congratulations. I'd now like to invite Bill Reeve to say a few words. Oh, no, I'm not. Inviting Andy to say a few words.
First of all, Tim, thank you very much for doing the presentation and the speech, and particularly for standing in at short notice. And I think Mr. Brindle is sitting there nodding approvingly. Can I thank everybody who's been involved in arranging the awards for this year? Obviously the Merchant Taylors Hall, the superb arrangements they make for us, but our sponsors, my colleagues on the committee and trustees, the judges and the adjudicators. Without all these people helping and everybody in the organisation of volunteers, without their input and without the financial support of our sponsors, we wouldn't be able to run the awards, which I think would be a loss. 2023 has been a considerable year of change for the National Rail Heritage Awards, and in fact we're not the same organisation that we were a year ago. We had been a registered charity for many years, but the law has moved on and we have replaced that with a new charitable incorporated organisation. Can I pay particular tribute to Jerry Swift, our secretary, who apart from handing over all the plaques has also spent a little bit of time, to put it mildly, taking that change through. And thank you, Jerry. And can I pay tribute to Robin Lilleux, Tony Saunders, Tony Tompkins and John Curley, 4 of our trustees who have retired. And I reckon between them they had over 100 years as trustees of the charity. So thank you all very much. Clive Baker, Gavin Johns and Rob Hayward have all moved from the committee to being trustees, and I also welcome Vicky Stretch, Network Rail's archivist, who I asked Nikki if she could advise somebody could help with our archives, and she volunteered to do it. So thank you very much, Vicky, for that. And Lizanne MacLeod, who I don't think she quite realised what she was letting herself into when she was volunteered to be our treasurer. And thank you very much for all you've done with taking that forward, Lizanne. Sadly, we've lost one of our most long-standing judges this year. Alan Davis passed away last month, and we will miss him greatly. So thank you all very much. Bill, would you like to come and say a few words?
Well, good afternoon, friends and colleagues. What a splendid event this is. And I have to say for myself, as the Director of Rail at Transport Scotland, I'm going to say how much I enjoy being invited to these international events. Always lovely to be in the beating heart of empire, isn't it? And the good news is that there's so much I want to say about this, and the good news is that the last down Scotch Express that I can take from David Horn's rather splendid service at King's Cross goes at 6:30, so I think there's time. But to be serious, I was delighted to be invited to this event. Whenever my diary and logistics permit, I always I'm delighted to get my invitation to come and just attend this event, so all the more privileged to be invited to speak and to hand out those awards to such deserving entries. But I'm going to just share with you some reflections as a railwayman about my experience and engagement with railway heritage. And I wonder if I'm the only person here who's had a sort of an interesting relationship with railway heritage through their railway career. I might talk about the time as a production manager at Tyseley. I found myself running the Birmingham Suburban service with older trains than were in the Railway Museum next door. Or I might tell you about the moment of unexpected dread I found in National Railway Museum when I walked into a reproduction of the Wolverton Works Manager's office, where I'd been interviewed by the then Works Manager as a young 18-year-old undergraduate trainee. I thought, oh my Lord, what have I been summoned here for? But isn't it marvellous that such things are there to be enjoyed and appreciated? But the truth is, for many years, I harboured what felt like something of a guilty secret. If I were to tell you that I had a particular pleasure in handing over the award for the St Blazey turntable, because I blagged my way into St Blazey shed at the tender age of 14, you may begin to understand what this dark secret is. Like, I suspect, quite a few of my colleagues in the room, I've always really rather liked trains and the railway. But I didn't know whether it was okay to say that when responsible for some aspect of a railway business. And here I am responsible for spending £1.4 billion of Scottish Government money on the railways of Scotland. Can I just clarify, I don't do that because I like trains. Right? I do like trains, but I don't do that because of that. I do it because of the importance of railway for the economy, the environment, the society which it serves. And our railways connect communities with opportunities and move freight sustainably, and they are fantastically important. But I do still like trains. But what I have learnt through the years is that's all right. Because actually what I have firmly learnt is the real importance and value of railway heritage to the modern railway business. So, friends and colleagues, I'm out and I'm proud. Come and join me. It feels rather good. And why? Why do I think that? Is it because the Jacobite steam train, which runs from Fort William to Mallaig, is the only timetable passenger train on the Scottish network I don't have to subsidise? Or is it because whenever we open one of our new lines in Scotland, we do so with a steam engine? No, we do both of those. We like both of those things because of what that railway heritage brings. There's not an image that Visit Scotland sends, or not a brochure that doesn't have a picture of that steam train on the Harry Potter viaduct, that marvellous piece of McAlpine concrete engineering. And there are communities and businesses that depend upon that heritage and depend upon the business that brings. And the truth is that we don't get the sort of publicity when we open a railway unless we celebrate the heritage as part of understanding the future. So I'd like to say a little bit more about why I think, and in what ways I think, railway heritage is reflected so brilliantly in the awards to hear matters to us. It's a bit of a conundrum, isn't it? That folk like railway heritage, but folk don't necessarily like the modern railway. How much complaint do we see about the railway industry of today, the train service people experience, the industrial relations, whatever else it is? There are lots of folk, if you open the press or looked on social media, you might not think that people like railways, but actually they do. People love the heritage of the railway business. They understand, and I can tell you from the correspondence we get, they understand that railways really matter for their lives, for their communities, for their economies, and they're excited about the future that railway can create. So clever railway companies, like the sponsors of this event, amongst others, clever railway companies look to associate their names and their brands with railway heritage, because that's positioning their part of the modern railway industry alongside that which people love. And that brings real value. And I'm just looking at yourself, David. When you want to get on the evening news, all you have to do is put one of your new trains alongside the Flying Scotsman in one of the older stations, and you're guaranteed the sort of publicity that no amount of clever social media would otherwise generate. So railway heritage is great for brand. It's also something that we can learn a very great deal from, the lessons from the heritage of our railway system, and indeed the inspirational work of those involved in preserving and developing our railway heritage. I remember being able to quote the example of the Welsh Highland line and its reopening, when trying to persuade people that reopening railways was not a daft idea. If that organisation can do it, why on earth can't we? And I have seen ingenuity and efficiency deployed in a number of these railway heritage projects that we would do well to learn from in the larger railway business. So a big thank you for that inspiration and challenge which the thriving railway heritage movement brings to the bigger railway. And even more basically, railway heritage is great for finance. We've seen today a number of projects that have turned liabilities into fabulous assets for the railway business and for the communities which they serve. And in doing so, generating goodwill and generating a positive impression of the railway travelling experience, which only serves to generate more business and more revenue. And railway heritage is great for morale. Actually, all the folk involved in these projects will have got a buzz out of it, and their colleagues in the railway that they serve will also, I know from talking and working with folk, appreciate that the railway that they are committed to, the railway service that they form an important part to, is being appreciated, is being celebrated, and is being preserved. And that feels good. So really mindful, notwithstanding that 6:30 train, that I do stand between you and a glass of wine, I'd just like to finish with absolutely sincere thanks for the astonishing work that is done both in the heritage railway sector and in preserving railway heritage on the main railway. For all of you involved in that, a big thank you, because railway heritage matters for the railway's future, and those of us involved in it, including those of us who actually quite like trains, but not just those of us involved in it, owe all of you who commit such ingenuity, effort, and hard work to preserving our heritage a huge debt of thanks. Thank you very much indeed. Extraordinarily well done. And I look forward to seeing you over a glass of wine. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Bill. The final stage of the proceedings, which we try to do as quickly as we can, is to hand over the certificates for those who are highly commended but sadly have not won awards. So Jerry will come over here and will announce them, and then could you come up and collect your certificate, have the photo taken, go back to your place, because by then the next people will be coming up as Jerry machine guns the names out.
Thank you very much indeed, Andy, and we'll get through this as quickly as can. Given that occasionally I see people starting to disappear at the back and sneak out, I'm just going to do the final plea now, which is if you were fortunate enough to collect one of the plaques today, could you please make sure that you collect the envelope to go with it? Two reasons for that. First of all, there's a letter in there that we'd love for you to read. And second, the fixings are in there, so you do need it. Either that, I'm not sure that super glue really works. Secondly, a plea, could you please return your name badges on the way out? We're trying to conserve here, and we will be reusing them next year. And I need to get them back on my dining room table. Right, so without further ado, I'd like now to invite the shortlisted entries to come up to the stage to receive their certificate. And the first of those is the team from the City of Edinburgh Council for the restoration of the former gasworks at Granton, please. And is John Yellowlees here? Yeah, John, could you just come and collect this one, please? Now, this gives me an opportunity to do a plug for another charity, because the reason I'm calling John is John has been doing some sterling work with the National Transport Trust, and you might have noticed on the photograph of that building, just behind the lamppost, there is a National Transport Trust red wheel. Now, these celebrate transport heritage, so I thought hence get John up to come and collect it. But if any of you have buildings or sites which are interested in transport heritage, do please go to the NTT website and have a look. Sorry, Andy. Next, the representatives from Network Rail Wales and Western for the work at Paddington, please. And again, Network Rail, please, for the restoration of the platform canopies at Morpeth. Thank you very much. And next, Chiltern Railways, please, for the restoration of the Edwardian furniture at Warwick. Now the ScotRail Trains team for the station concourse at Aberdeen, please. So, Aberdeen, there you go. Next, we got anybody? Excellent stuff. Okay, yeah. Next, First Trenitalia West Coast Rail Limited for the restoration of the tiling at Coventry Station, please. Network Rail, Story Contracting and Ropetech Access Solutions Limited for the Royal Border Bridge at Berwick-on-Tweed. Andy. And next, National Highways for the restoration of the footbridge on the Teviot Viaduct, please. Next, Transport for London for the completion of the step-free project at Cockfosters. Next, the team from the Rother Valley Railway for the turntable at Robertsbridge. The Great Western Society Limited for the water tower at Didcot. Network Rail for the restored train shed at Holyhead. Next, the Hollingbourne Station Community Cafe and Hub for the work undertaken on Hollingbourne Station. Next, Tidy Randalstown for the creation of the Randalstown Viaduct Community Garden. Next, the team from Govia Thameslink for Bishopstone Station. Next, the Ainsford Station Darrant Valley Community Rail Partnership for the work at Ainsford Station. Next, Places for People Developments Limited for the Engine Yard in Edinburgh. Next, the National Trust for the reimagining of the Castlefield Viaduct. And can I just add that we very much welcome the entry of this in a future competition at a point where more of the work has been undertaken or there's some more to celebrate. Next, Jackie Hamilton for the Wellbeing and Counselling Facility at Ladybank. And finally, the Centenary Lounge for the refreshment rooms at Leamington Spa. Thank you very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen.
That concludes the formalities. Should anybody be interested, there might just be some food and drink outside. But thank you all very much for coming, particularly the difficulties that some of you have had getting here today. And can I wish you all every good wish for Christmas and for 2024. We'll see you here on the 4th of December next year. Thank you.